and welcome to Dabbling in Journals, and today is a very different video from me. I've had a number of you request that I share my tarot deck collection. In fact, Rachel, I think you might have requested it more than once, so I am finally doing it. And I'm not a tarot tuber, so this isn't the usual content of my channel, but I do use my tarot cards a lot in journaling. I do a focus of the week each week in my bullet journal, which is inspired by a tarot card. I use tarot cards in my self-care journaling. I use tarot cards in my personal journaling. And of course, I use tarot cards in my tarot journals. So I thought it would be really fun to share the cards that I really love with you. I'm fairly new to tarot. I'm still learning the traditional meanings of the cards. And I'm learning the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the tarot. I have a little Rider-Waite-Smith deck here, and the rest of my collection are all different interpretations based on that system. So it's helpful if you know the sort of traditional meanings, and then you can look at how the different artists and deck creators have interpreted it. And it is the artwork that really draws me in. So some of these are gifts and some of them I've chosen because I absolutely loved the artwork. So I hope you enjoy having a quick look through them with me. So the first deck that I'm going to share with you is the Light Seers Tarot. This has beautiful backs, and I have coloured in the edges of all the cards in black to match the backs of the card. I really find that a very cathartic experience doing that with my decks, and I enjoy it. So this deck is quite a modern deck. We have some ethnic diversity in the people and also age diversity, which is nice to see. Makes it appealing to a wider range of people and emphasises the things that we all have in common. And tarot decks do tend to explore sort of character traits and emotions and what makes us valuable as human beings, really. I think the artwork in this deck is absolutely gorgeous. I find it a very practical deck, and the guidebook has a positive affirmation for each card, which is really nice if you're using the deck to help you focus on self-care. But it also, I mean, it doesn't pull any punches. It also gives you some suggestions for thinking about possible problems that you're having in your life. Look at that card with a little boy and the puppy, and the older man with an older dog. I love how creative and imaginative the artwork is, and the different ways in which they use their artwork to convey the meanings of the cards. Beautiful. So that is the Light Seers. There's a little pig flying. Pigs might fly. So that is the Light Seers Tarot. The next deck that I'm going to share with you was gifted to me by a very dear friend, so it's very special to me. It was a surprise gift for no other reason than she wanted to give me a tarot deck. And this is called the Good Tarot. And the artwork in this one is photo digital manipulation artwork, which is just gorgeous. Look at that angel. Another angel. And this again is a very positive deck, and the guidebook's very interesting because it really does encourage you to focus on self-care. That one's upside down. So is that one. I've got my deck upside down. There we go. Oh, look at that stag. Again, a really creative, imaginative artwork. Lovely colour palette. Look at that image. And of course, when you're looking at these images, you can look at the subject matter, you can look at the composition, how the elements are arranged in the picture, you can look at the colours, you can look at the line work and the textures and so on, and see what that inspires you to think about. So you can interpret the card just as it is. You don't have to use the guidebook or the original tarot meanings. Whatever you want to do, they'll be your cards after all. and some people use them for meditation. They just look at a card and meditate. So that is the Good Tarot. And I will list them. I don't know if I've already said that. I will list them all down below in case you see one that you're interested in purchasing for yourself. The next deck I'm going to share with you is one of my newest decks. Absolutely love this one. I'm going to say that about every deck, aren't I? But this one is by a tarot artist that I really admire. Her name is Anna Turian, and she produced this deck, and it's fascinating because it's just pen and ink. And being able to produce such emotional images, creative images, just using a pen, it blows me away. And she's currently working, oh look at that card, she's currently working on another deck, which is a coloured deck. I think she's going to watercolour, so it's still going to be ink, pen and ink, but with watercolour, called, is it called the Tarot of Echoes? I can't wait for it to come out. I'm hoping it will come out mass market, but it'll probably be an independent deck. Look at that lovely image. Baby on her back. Again, such creative, imaginative artwork. So much emotion. I think this is going to be one of my favourite decks. I really love it. Look at that. I really want to have a go at improving my pen and ink drawing myself, and this one is really going to inspire me to do that. Not that I think I could achieve this standard, but I can still have fun trying, can't I? She's got no face. She's got two faces to choose from. So that, I don't know if I said, that one is called the Tarot of the Abyss. I think the idea is that we've all emerged from nothing. So the abyss was the nothing that existed before creation. And I haven't coloured the edges of that card, those cards, but I really love it. Now this deck is called the Witch's Wisdom deck. So the clue is in the name. It's a much more pagan focused deck. Now I don't choose my decks because they represent my spiritual or religious beliefs, but simply for the artwork or the ideas that they contain. And I find looking at different points of view really interesting anyway. So this deck, one of the things I love about this deck is it changes the tarot order. So the major arcana cards in the tarot tell a story. It's a journey through life, and the characters are all archetypes, and they all have different kinds of character traits from which you can learn. And they start with sort of the beginning of the journey with innocence, with naivety and so on, and then they work through until they reach the heaven above. With these ones, she's turned it round, and you actually start with somebody who is leaving civilization behind. So they're not at the beginning of their life. They've reached a point where they're leaving civilization behind, and they're going on a journey, and they start with baggage which they gradually shed until they become one with the earth. So I thought that was a really interesting way to view the tarot, and I'm really enjoying the artwork. It's watercolour and beautiful. So it's very earthy, very nature based, which I enjoy. There are a few cards that I don't particularly like. Never keen on bones. So yes, this is, oh look at those wolves under the moon. So lots of animals in here. We've got different ethnic backgrounds. We've got age diversity, and very earthy, nature-based deck with a really lovely guidebook. So that is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Now this is a very special deck, and this is one of my independently produced decks. This is by Seer, and all the cards in this deck are oil paintings, and she is a UK based artist, I think. Well, she might live in France, I don't know actually, but I'm sure the decks ship from the UK. So this one is a bit more pricey. Absolutely stunning, in my opinion, artwork. I love it. It's very abstract. It's been done in oils, as I said. I'd love to see the originals, because obviously you can't see the texture of the oil paint when you're looking at a reproduction. I mean, look at that card. I just think it's so gorgeous. So I think this might have been the first ever deck I bought. I can't even remember how I came across it. And I mean, look at that card. You can just make out the features of the face. And some of these cards are quite daunting, but on the whole, I think they're really beautiful. Let's see if I can find my favourite cards. Probably can't. Well, that's my favourite card. I think I've shown that before. Really love that one. That's the Fool at the beginning of the journey. And here is the Fool at the end of the journey. I mean, that's really interesting. So we've got the same composition, but a completely different use of colour. This is a very spiritual deck. So that was the Shimmering Veil by Seer. Now I'm going to show you some decks that were gifted to me by my children. My son gifted me this one, which is the Wild Unknown Tarot. I haven't edged it because it's got like a black and white back. And again, this is pen and ink, but with a little bit of colour. This is a much older deck. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe it was one of the first sort of really creative reimaginings of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which was the one that these were all based on. And I find this one is much more symbolic, so you've got lots of symbols, and I think I really would need the guidebook to make sense of these, or to get anything really useful. But maybe that's just because I don't know them very well yet. But really beautiful pen and ink drawings. And one of the things I love about this deck is the fact that the Hermit card is a tortoise, and my son has a tortoise, and he gifted me this deck. And he loves his tortoise, takes really good care of him. So I really enjoy that that's in this deck. And so yes, that is the Wild Unknown Tarot. So do you see how different all the artwork is in the different decks, if you haven't come across tarot much before? And here we have a very different again deck. This is a deck that was gifted to me by my daughter, and is called the Tarot de la Nuit. So this tarot deck is all set at night, and all the characters are living in a nighttime world. So it's very dark in terms of its colour palette, or tonal palette, although there are some lighter cards, look. And this is digital photo manipulation, and I thought it was a perfect one for my daughter to give to me, as she did a fine art photography degree. And the images are very idealised, so they are all beautiful young women or beautiful young men, which I really enjoy. It's a fantasy world. That reminds me of Millet's painting of Ophelia. I'll have to have a look in the book. I presume that's what it was based on, but it might not have been. So yes, this is a lovely dark deck, but not macabre or frightening in any way. That's a beautiful image. Oh, and look at that. That makes me want to draw. I want to draw that one. try and copy it. I don't know if you're allowed to do that because they're copyrighted, I suppose, but I suppose you could do it for your own deck. You can do it at home as long as you don't sell it or show it or whatever. So that is the Tarot de la Nuit. This next deck is the Hidden Realm Tarot, and I've edged this one in a lovely purple colour to go with the backs. And this one, and I start with an upside down card, this one is set in the world of the Fae, which is really interesting. And what I really love about this deck, apart again from the absolutely stunning artwork, watercolour paintings, what I love about this deck is the way that facial expression is used to convey some of the meanings of the card. I mean, look how serene she looks compared to her expression. You can see how she's yearning to move forward there, and that's a very different kind of mood. And I think because you get really good close-ups of the faces, you can really see the facial expressions. And it fascinates me how artists can capture that. I think that there are lots of facial expressions which are cross-cultural, so anybody can read them. There are a few that aren't. He's supposed to be upside down. He's the Hanged Man. He's looking at the world from a different perspective. And she, look at her, beautiful little girl. So we get lots of age diversity in this deck, as they're living in their little Fae world. So there's no ethnic diversity because it's one little tribe of Fae. Do Fae come in tribes? I don't know much about Fae. Absolutely stunning deck. I think this will always be one of my most favourite tarot decks. Really, really enjoy the artwork in this one and the emotion. That's the deck for me to use when I want to explore my emotions. Right, this is another more witchy deck. In fact, it's called the Good Witch Tarot. I really love the backs. They make me think of Christmas. And I've edged this in red, so I've got the green and the red and the red. And this is set in a little community. It's very medieval. I think the artwork is very storybook. And that's one thing I think you could also use tarot for, is to inspire you for doing in creative writing, if that's something you're interested in. And you can just see all these people living their lives, learning from each other, each of them displaying different character traits that we can use to reflect upon. That one makes me think of Harry Potter. All the all the boys with their wands. They all boys look like it. That's a witch. So it is the Good Witch character. It is the Good Witch Tarot, so you do have some witch images in. Not everybody would like, but a lot of people would. Yeah, can you see how it's got this storybook feel? Why I think that. This lovely sort of idyllic, rural world, which I'm sure that medieval rural communities, it was by far from idyllic. So that is the Good Witch Tarot. And then we have this deck, which I've shared before, which is another independent deck, which I absolutely love the artwork for. I think I've said that for all of them though, haven't I? Really love this one. Now this is quite a dark deck. Some of the images are very confronting. So I will only use this deck when I'm in certain kinds of moods, but I do find the artwork so creative, so imaginative, and very inspiring. And sometimes we do need to think about the more negative aspects of life, sadly. And I'm okay with that. No point pretending everything's all rosy all the time. As much as it would be nice to live in utopia. So this is definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea. but I really like this artwork. So this is the Bloodmoon Tarot, Live That Lover's card. And then I have this little pocket deck, and this one is called the Dreams of Gaia, and this is very much fantasy art. I think the artist does illustrate fantasy things. So again, really different. We've got some set in a medieval world again, and then some are completely otherworldly. And this is quite a different interpretation of the tarot. It moves away from Rider-Waite-Smith quite a lot, so you do need the guidebook if you want to understand all of it or ever get everything out of it. I've only got the mini guidebook though because I bought the mini version. Such beautiful colours. Look at her. There's some really beautiful images in this deck. Wow. So that is the Dreams of Gaia tarot. And I do try to, when I'm looking at decks, I do try to find ones which have a different style of artwork from the ones that I already have, because I want to learn from it and explore it. And the last one to show you is the Rider-Waite-Smith one. I have this really tiny version of that. This is a Radiant Wise Spirit version, because there are different reproductions of the original artwork. And I've edged mine in a sort of brown colour to make it look old, because this is obviously such an old deck from the 19th century. Not this particular one, this is a reproduction, but the deck comes from the 19th century, I think. And these are the images that I used for my tarot study, because I want to learn the original meanings of the tarot, and then I will look at how it's been interpreted differently in my other decks, and then I'll come up with my own way of of reading and understanding the cards that I want to use for my journaling. So yeah, just a nice little mini deck. So I think I've shown you all of my tarot decks. I do have some on my wish list. As I said, I'm really keen to get another one from this artist, but in colour, even though I love the black and white. And there's one called, I don't know if I can pronounce it, there's one called the Sarubi, no I can't, I'll write it on the screen, which is kind of like a manga style artwork, which I think would be really fun to have a look at. And yeah, that is my tarot collection. So quite a small collection compared to some people, but really quite a lot of cards for me to get my head round. And I will continue this little tarot series by producing a video in the future sharing my tarot journals, and I might do one in which I talk about how I use my cards to journal and inspire me. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.